good evening, or whatever time of day it is that you see this. The theme is perception. I went to school to study people, groups of people, how people interact with one another. Um, I think even when I was a child, even though I wouldn't be able to verbalize exactly what it was, I wouldn't have had the vocabulary as a young child. Um, you need to be circumspect to study people and the actions and interactions of groups of people, or it's just one-on-one people, whatever. You need to be able to remove yourself from a situation and look at that situation, that person, or that group of people from the outside to understand, to truly understand what is going on with those people, whether it's a group that you were observing or whether it's a person you're interacting with. Went to school for that. I always was confident going into any situation with any person because I always had, or I felt as if I had, and as it turns out, the way I interacted with people, yes, I could perceive beyond the veneer most of the time. And I could read people, and I did it well. And though I never had a job as any kind of sociologist, never went that route, the ability to be able to recognize what people may or probably were thinking, planning, doing, you name it, my ability to be able to read a group, read people, and then interact and know what to say to people has always helped me in life. I never was a sociologist in practice, never took a job like that. Whatever job I did take in life, the ability to read people always came in handy. And as I said, I think I was really fortunate enough to be good at it. Um, jump ahead from school days and even childhood days, jump ahead to the present day. I fear that I no longer have the ability to read a person or a group. I don't know what has changed about me. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's loss. I Yeah, I'm almost tempted to say, oh, I don't know if it's society. I think the problem is all within. Something about me fundamentally. All of a sudden, I can't read people. And not that it's damaging to myself or any kind of career. I mean, at worst, I'll be an easier target for scammers, maybe. Um, but I don't know what about me has changed. I hope it's not just age, and I hope it's not just loss, because those two things I can't fix. I'd like to be able to regain my ability to talk with someone and read beyond what's being said, read beyond what the surface is being shown to me. Used to have it, no longer have it. Um, a confession, because you need an example. Well, you don't need an example. I feel like giving you an example. because it was brought home to me because of this example. And it's not just one occurrence. It's not. I wish I could say, oh, it was just, one time thing. I can't read women anymore. And I worry it's my age, or I worry it's because of the losses in my life. I don't, I'm not proud of the fact that when I was younger, I was a bit, now, Tegan, cover your ears. I was a bit of a hound. Not proud of it, but I was always able to read when a woman may have shown interest in me. And I would be able to read past just the veneer and think to myself, yeah, maybe we would make a something good together. I don't have that. I've proved that to myself over and over again over the past couple of years. Um, it's interesting. I mean, it's kind of depressing at the same time, but it's interesting because uh, in other videos that I've made in relation to subjects like this, uh, when my wife was dying, and we would talk about, well, what's Charlie going to do? And she would tell me, well, I want you to go out. I want you to meet somebody. I don't want you sitting around not meeting anybody. And she gave me her no fly list, which was very, very short. And from there on, it was like, well, any other of the 4 billion women in the world, yeah, please meet somebody, have fun, connect, and be happy. And as difficult as that may be to move on, and it is difficult, and people out there in my position, widows or widowers, this, it's hard to move on. But I used to be able to read people well. I went to school for it because before I even realized why I was studying sociology, it was because of people and the way I could interact with them and the way they interacted back with me. I could say the right thing because I knew what was okay. And I knew what would be acceptable, what was pushing the line, what was silly, what was serious. I knew it. And they knew it. And I knew they knew it because of the way my mind works, by the way I went to school to study people. I knew the way it worked. I don't have it anymore. I cannot recognize that any longer. And it's a shock to the system. It's something I used to rely on when I was young for fun, when I was older to make serious relationships, and to live my life. And it also, it's not just with women and relationships. It also it comes into jobs and how you work a job. Judy would always tell me, I never had a job, never had a real job. And maybe to an extent, she was right. I did things that I liked and that I wanted to do. And I was fortunate to make a life for myself doing things that I liked, whether it was restoring antiques, which I did for a long time. And I think I did that well because I could interact with clients, I could interact with contractors, I could interact with any number of people because I knew how to read them. And I was open enough so that they could read me. Some people don't have that. Believe me, some people are lacking in that. I relied on that. When I was in radio, another thing that I liked and it was fun. And I was fortunate enough to do it for a while as part of my living. Very fortunate because I could read people, callers, guests, my fellow people on the radio. I could read them and they could read me. I allowed myself to be read. It's fairly open. I could still be circumspect. It's how I knew how to deal with people. Irate callers on the radio, stubborn clients when I did antiques, women when I would get into a relationship. Yeah, naturally, it's a two-way street. If you're not a scumbag, it's a two-way street. But I'm now at an age where it's been driven home to me. I am not reading the signals I think that are being sent. I mean, it manifests itself most obviously with women, but sometimes in the job too. I have another job nowadays, and I have that job simply because I want to. I want to go to the job. I like it. That if people I actually worked with heard me say this, they'd think I was out of my mind. Seriously, they would. But I like the job, and I go and do the job just because I like it. And that's the way I've treated everything else, every other job. Um, but I'm finding it more and more difficult to relate to people. I wonder if anybody else out there has the same problem at the same age. I'm approaching dangerously close to 60. I wonder if it's age. Now, as you've guessed through what I've said, yes, I've had loss in my life. I wonder if it's loss. I wonder if that's affected it. It's frustrating that I can't read people as well as I used to. In some cases, I can't read them at all. It has nothing to do with interacting with social media. It has nothing to do with online. It has everything to do with what's in here. I'm sure of it. I don't know if it's short circuits after a certain age. I mean, maybe college professors who teach certain subjects like sociology, maybe they have to retire at a certain age. I don't know. Maybe that's a paper in the making. Maybe I'll get back to writing sociology papers. Who knows? I think it's an interesting subject, especially since I'm living it now. But I'm really curious. Anybody else out there feeling as if they can't read people? I'm not talking about social media. Forget that. I don't want any answers. If you get back to me, which I hope you do, I don't want any answers that has to do with any kind of social media. Um, feel free to comment. I'm really curious. But it's not this. It's not social media. It's not YouTube. It's not Facebook. It's not Instagram. It's none of that. It's in here. And I'm wondering if you have come up against the same kind of block. Anyhow, that's it. I've rambled long enough, probably longer than anybody has been hanging on to listen. Love you guys.